Content is intended to provide accurate information, however, is not intended as financial, tax, or legal advice. Please consult a financial, legal, or tax professional for specific information regarding your individual situation. Opinions expressed and provided are for general informational purposes only and should not be considered a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security.
Welcome to Game Plan for Retirement with Chris Mcintire. McIntyre Retirement Services, Northwest Ohio's retirement planning resource.
And welcome into the program. This is your game plan for retirement. And with us, as always, our resource for that common sense approach to planning, Northwestern Ohio's resource for guidance and perspective in your financial progress. He is Chris Mcintire, president and founder of McIntyre Retirement Services. A big topic today, talking about how not to go broke in retirement. Chris, a big concern on the minds of retirement-minded individuals. Those even already in the retirement community still have this concern.
Sure, Peter. The top concern for all retirees is running out of money. And, we'll talk today about, some of those other concerns and how we factor those into our retirement plans. I think the one thing that I have learned throughout my career is, the folks that have the greatest amount of monthly income coming in from guaranteed sources have certainly the greatest peace of mind through their retirement, because they're not necessarily relying on speculative investments, if you will, that can certainly drive the emotion.
Well, I think that the key here, Chris, as always, the bottom line of this program is to encourage people the re-emphasize the importance of having a true plan, having a plan in writing. And I know that you put that game plan for retirement plan in people's hands. It is a specific set of recommendations. It is specific to their circumstances and situation, a snapshot of where they are, a discussion of their goals, and then putting them in writing, running all kinds of calculators on how to maximize available source of income, and then a specific set of recommendations on how to achieve and accomplish their goals. And Chris, having that in your hands, that'll go a long way in helping to avoid the possibility of going broke in retirement.
Confidence is a very key factor, Peter, and in all aspects of our life as we pursue our careers. If you think of confidence going into your retirement, what would that entail? Confidence would entail, strong belief in that your income stream is guaranteed. You've factored in inflation costs. You've probably considered some taxation issues in there, and you've removed a certain amount of risk, or at least mitigated those risks. It's hard to remove them, to be fair. But you have taken all those things into consideration as you build a plan for yourself. And, let's face it, in 2020 and even into 2021, with uncertainty with the virus and different variants and, are vaccines effective? Are we going to need booster shots? Tell me that doesn't rattle people's confidence.
Sure. And everything else that's going on in the world. I mean, there's no lack of worries and concerns about our money, Chris, but that's why having that plan is so important. And ladies and gentlemen, if you would like your game plan for retirement, that specific set of recommendations, instructions in simple, easy to understand language and executable steps, a timeline of when you need to take action. If you'd like that in your hands, pick up the phone, give Chris Mcintire a call, 800-727 800-868-1194. That's 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. And Chris Mcintire will put together for you that game plan for retirement. And Chris, it really is all about confidence, because I have to imagine, going through retirement, that the mindset changes. Our psychology changes about our money. We've been programmed not to touch those retirement accounts. And when we begin withdrawing from them and we see the account balance maybe even start to shrink just minutely, just a little, and we recognize that that is our base for supporting our lifestyle, that can significantly impact and alter our confidence. It might not be the day that we run out of money that's the worst day of retirement. It might be all the years leading up to that when we are afraid of that time coming.
Yeah. And, as we went through 2020, that certainly rattled everybody's chains back there in the month of March. And, I don't think anybody was isolated from that. Where were we going? We were delving into, the unknown certainty. And, thankfully, the markets have recovered, somehow reached record highs. And, we hope that we continue to grow as we exit this pandemic that has affected every nook and cranny of basically every individual on the planet like never before. That certainly rattles the cage basically here, Peter. And, having confidence in the fact that, you know what, I took measures ahead of this in case something like this happened. And, I can go back through the emails on clients that I have met with that, have been clients for some amount of time. They're like, I'm so glad we had this in place, to a client who maybe just came on board with us and started the process that said, I was leery about doing certain parts of your plan, but now I see why it makes so much sense. Thank you. To, folks we had met with, but hadn't quite done anything just yet. And all of a sudden they froze and didn't want to do anything because that's what panic and emotion does. And, some of them have actually reached back out to us and said, all right, I get it. We're back to where we were. Let's get this plan in place. And I understand the need for a safe strategy, and basically, by and large, what a lot of folks enjoy working with us for, because we advocate that strategy.
Well, I think that the time for action is now. There's never any benefit in procrastinating and getting that plan put together. Pick up the phone, give Chris Mcintire a call, 800-868-1194. Chris, you've talked about it, that confidence in retirement is quality of life in retirement. That is the enjoyment in spending your time in fulfillment throughout retirement. And there are certain behaviors you have noted that people who have that confidence, they tend to have as their habits and routines. These behaviors are important to building that confidence. And if we want to avoid running out of money, we need to A, identify the issues that can cause it, B, formulate the plan on how to address it, but C, also maybe mimic some of these behaviors from those that do have the confidence, those that are more retirement savvy.
Correct. Problem solving is basically what we do throughout our lives. And it's something, the cornerstone of what we do for our folks. And I'm going to read through, I got a list of 10 of them, hijacked it from a Dave Ramsey article that was out there. And, we share articles all the time here on the radio program. So, the number one thing that of the top 10 good characteristics that retirement savvy people have is they understand that their income is their biggest wealth building tool. Okay. Understanding how important that income is.
Or in retirement, Chris, their biggest wealth protecting tool. The income is actually what serves to protect our net worth and our assets and our wealth.
Absolutely. We've always advocated structuring a stream of income to cover the basic living expenses that doesn't necessarily come out of the investment side. It comes more out of the guaranteed income side. In these, the savvy folks also, know their monthly budget and they stick to it, especially when the times get tough, they'll cut down on the expenses. In the ones that are saving for retirement right now, put 15% of their income away for retirement. So some very good saving disciplines out there. And that's probably where Dave Ramsey's been a very big advocate for the upcoming generation. Right now we're probably talking to a lot of folks that are already into retirement or very close to, but those of you that are saving for retirement, putting away 15% of your income, getting that company match is certainly a very key component to that.
Living within your means at the end of the day, with whichever side of retirement you may happen to fall on. And Dave is a big fan of the budget. Chris, you've talked about it in retirement, not so much in terms of a budget, which sort of feels limiting, but as a spending plan or as an income plan, which gives us a whole lot more psychological freedom with our money when we have a spending plan or an income plan as opposed to that budget.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And, I'd rather be spending money in Southwest Florida right now than cold and damp Northwest Ohio, of course. But these folks, they update their estate planning documents. They keep powers of attorney current in case something bad happens, and then where we see a significant change in folks that do things better than others is probably a good analogy is, where the spouses work together on the plan and they both understand it. Because the hardest part for us as advisors is, all of a sudden you get a phone call where the decision maker passed away and the remaining spouse is clueless on how things work in the household. That's a tough adjustment for everybody, in the worst of times.
Coach used to say there's no I in team. I handle the finances. I handle the investing. I handle the paying of the bills. It really does need to be a team effort there, doesn't it?
Yeah, it certainly does there. And, collaborating on what's coming in, what's going out, what would you do if something happened to me, that sort of thing. That's no surprise to anybody. They also, have some form of long-term care insurance in case they go into a nursing home. And, we're dealing with that right now with a dear friend of ours at $8,000 a month in the nursing home. And previously, when they were at their home and we had 24-hour care, that was $16,000 a month. So that is something that, in our mid 50s, that's what my wife and I have already mitigated that risk. I'm in the middle of even updating and getting a larger benefit just in case.
Such a big one.
Such a big one, Peter. You're absolutely right, especially in the pandemic here. Most folks want to remain in their own home, and that's more expensive in a lot of cases than what would be in a skilled care type facility. Also, very important is, savvy retirees, savvy savers do not borrow from their 401ks.
Happened a lot during the pandemic.
Certainly, and that's understandable. I guess we would probably, put a caveat to that, saying, look, in normal times, if you're sticking to a real budget, you shouldn't have to go in and borrow from that 401k. And we're certainly here not saying that, look, sometimes life is what happens to plans and you need to make some of those adjustments.
But it's not for a swimming pool in the backyard, and it's not even for the kids' college expenses. This is retirement money. This is intended to support you in retirement, a time when you're no longer planning on having an income, not when the kids are getting ready to go out and begin earning an income.
You're absolutely right. We have, run into a number of cases where folks have enabled their children to become long-term, college attendees, so to speak. And I use that term enabling, purposefully, and if as long as you enable somebody to take it, I don't want to say take advantage of you, but you know what I mean? It could be family members that you're, loaning money to and whatnot. They will continue to go down that path, and do them the favor of learning some financial independence.
Yeah, I guess just to say, don't allow that to be to your own detriment. You got to make yourself that stable foundation. Don't erode at it for the benefit of others, because then you're not truly being of long-term, lasting, significant support. Because if your own foundation is not steady and stable, you end up being the one that needs the support.
That's exactly right. And if you're going to be the bank, make them sign an agreement that they're going to pay you back, and that sort of things, because that just instills discipline. And many folks that we deal with certainly live below their means. And if you live below your means, means you have extra dollars to do the special things in life, like, hey, a wonderful opportunity came up, and because you live below your means, you can go out and purchase that second home down in Florida or wherever it is in your retirement. And then a process that we have in our practice is, we meet with our clients on a regular scheduled basis, and that is certainly works very well for an accountability process, right? Peter, you and I give that workout analogy. If you have a trainer that you pay, your results are going to be remarkably better than relying on your own self-discipline to go to the gym 3 times a week. But if you're paying someone to get you into where that develops a habit, that works well. And I can speak to that as well personally.
More likely to be accomplished. So again, one of the behaviors of retirement savvy individuals, regular meetings, a true relationship with a planner, with a financial personal trainer, if you will. And Chris Mcintire is here to provide that resource for you, ladies and gentlemen, also to put the plan together. Pick up the phone, give a call, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. And Chris, one of the large reasons for having those regular meetings with that financial and investment planning professional is to identify and to specifically structure plans to address some of these reasons why we might run out of money in retirement, to avoid that as being a potential or a possibility. So in order to reduce our risk, we've got to first identify and then plan and address. And Chris, what are some of the attributing factors? What are some of the risks? Why are we seeing so many people worried about running out of money in retirement?
Well, yeah, Peter, they either are so utterly conservative that they don't have the opportunity to replace what they're taking out. And that would be a reflection of the interest rate environment right now, and maybe some of the returns in the bond market or the fixed income buckets. Okay. We could also take too much risk and go the other side of that equation and say, well, I put all my eggs in one basket and it didn't work out. And man, it's really going to take me a long time to recover. They did not identify where their basic living expenses were and what are the best means to cover those basic living expenses under any sort of scenarios, essentially, covering the house, the mortgage, the taxes, paying the light bills and everything, and then relying on investments to bring some of the icing on the cake, if you will. And part of that would be withdrawing too much money. Some folks, might still be going by that 4% rule, that came out in 1994, 1995, when we could probably buy a 10-year US government bond paying 5.5%, where today it pays about 1%. So,
or not following any rules at all, Chris. I mean, that's a kind of a guiding principle there with that 4% rule. At one point, it was believed to be very sustainable, now highly questioned. However, a lot of people probably just fly by the seat of their pants, and retirement, they have that bucket list. They had that long list of big things that they always wanted to do. Doing all of them in the first year might be detrimental to the many years to follow.
Yeah, those retirement lifestyle funds that have become so common for folks that, don't have a whole lot of investor savvy, and that's a fair statement. And they check that box like, all right, well, I'm going to retire in 2025. So I'm going to check that box. That's where my money's going to go. And, that sounds good. So I should be okay if I just leave my money in there. They don't have any idea the risk that's in there. Where are they on the equity side versus the fixed income side? And, mutual funds, as good as they are, exchange traded funds, stocks, bonds, annuities, certificates of deposit, real estate pieces, gold, those all encompass an overall retirement plan. Asset allocation is an investment strategy. Income allocation is more like a retirement strategy that encompasses asset allocation underneath that umbrella, if you will.
Absolutely. Well, we've got to have a plan in place. Chris, you mentioned earlier in the behaviors of retirement savvy individuals that they understood their income was the basis for their financial progress. For the investments to be successful, we've got to first and foremost have an income that's reliable. And the same holds true in retirement. So being too conservative, taking too much risk, everything in moderation, and understanding the specific purpose for specific dollars, not spending too much too early. But another big one, Chris, and this was alluded to on the list of behaviors of retirement savvy individuals as well. Big expenses later in retirement are a concern for many. And that's one of the reasons why that list probably included that element of long-term care, but not the only big expense that can happen late either.
As we work with folks that are working their way into retirement, Peter, one of the things that we try to help them address is, the need for, new roofs, new furnaces, air conditioners, major expenses. Going to remodel the kitchen for $50,000, is trying to encourage them to do that out of income they have while they're still working versus making a big withdrawal on the 401k in retirement. And again, we're casting a wide net here as we talk on the show. But if they're going to want to pay cash for cars and that type of thing, it's like, look, try to do some of that stuff before you retire and use income you've got from your employer versus income you're drawing from your investments, because you never know when you're going to take some sort of a hit to it, if you will.
Yeah. Well, Chris, next on the list, we talked about this one a couple weeks back on our Valentine's weekend edition of the program. You spoke about protecting your spouse. Here's a big one: reduction of income. And this could be from pensions, from Social Security, but it also could be during our own lifetimes, sources of income changing or going away. You mentioned how we're in a low interest rate environment. The yield on bonds and fixed income and interest rates have come down significantly. That is a reduction in income for retirees. Dividends can be cut and slashed. That's happened several times in the last 15 to 20 years. So there are sources of income that can change and go away. And then there's the need for income, which is relatively constant.
Peter, inflation right now is going to be a key factor here for the retirees that are starting into retirement right now, and that is, the cost of goods and services are outpacing our ability to have, let's just say, safe money in the bank, for example, to keep up with that. If you've got $100,000 in the bank right now, and if inflation is running at 3% in 3 years, you've lost essentially 10% of your purchasing power when you compound 3% inflation. And, it's hard to tell folks, say, look, don't have any money in the bank right now because you're not paying anything on it. You certainly got to have your emergency fund. And we're certainly an advocate for covering that 3 to 6 months of your basic expenses that you need in an emergency fund. But, when we talk about married couples, Peter, in retirement, it's very likely that one of them is going to spend some time in a long-term care facility. And, how much hit to your income does an $8,000 a month check cost you?
Yeah. Things that we have to think about and consider, Chris, and another one, just the longevity, the fact that we are living longer, even a healthy, longer lifetime, it increases the risks that, first off, the stress and strain and reliance that we put on our money under regular conditions, but it increases the risks that inflation will become a real factor. It increases the risk that we'll see a few different market cycles. And when we're withdrawing money as those markets go up and down, that compounds the risk, especially in down times, that we're pulling a greater percentage of our portfolio value out. Again, increasing that risk, eroding that confidence. That's why we need careful, specific planning for that spending plan and that income plan in retirement.
Risk mitigation is going to be one of the biggest factors that everybody has as we go through retirement. Understanding that, look, no strategy is perfect. That's why you use a number of different strategies. And here's plan A. Okay. And then here's plan B if plan A doesn't work. And plan B might just be, having a couple $100,000 in a safe strategy so that if the growth strategy suffers a significant hit, we've had, some serious volatility in the market since the year 2000. We had a severe recession in 2000, 2001, 2002. That was basically 3 years. The 2008 financial crisis was more along the lines of a quick hit and then a strong recovery. So far, the pandemic in 2020, a quick hit and then a recovery. So some of the we're not accustomed to a longer term downturn that is very common and can happen. And folks aren't really ready for that right now. Wouldn't it be nice to know that you have that alternative strategy to rely on, and have your money segmented into buckets, if you will? I've got a safe bucket. I've got a low to moderate risk bucket. I've got a growth bucket, and, which would be for your longer term dollars to help replace some of the money you might be pulling out. That's one strategy. Utilizing an annuity to help you create that income stream that also might have the ability to help you keep pace with inflation that could increase over time. Again, relieving pressure off of that growth bucket when things don't go well. And I can almost promise you, I can't use the word guarantee, that sometimes things don't go as planned. And, hedging all these different types of risks that you're going to have: sequence risk in the stock market, bond market risk when interest rates go up, inflation risk, healthcare costs risk, longevity risk, which accentuates the potential for every other thing in retirement and in normal everyday life that can happen. All we do all day long in our normal lives is to help mitigate risk.
Well, again, if you would like that plan to address those risks, to mitigate those risks, to reduce those risks likelihood of having an impact on your retirement, to reduce that risk of running out of money, to address that concern, and to build more confidence throughout your retirement, pick up the phone, give a call, request the time with Chris Mcintire to put together that game plan for retirement. Simple, easy to understand language, a snapshot of where you are, written down goals and objectives so that you can measure them and create benchmarks for yourself, know that you're working to achieve them, a timeline of executable action items, concise, consolidated steps that you need to take in order to achieve your goals. Get that game plan for retirement in your hands. 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194. No cost, no obligation for that, by the way. So don't think that price is an objection to get in the way of you actually having a plan and building that confidence. For most folks, that cost is not, but this is something that absolutely should not be. Chris Mcintire makes his time available for you. So long as you're serious about your planning and your financial future, give him a call. 800-868-1194. Chris, kind of saving the best for last here. This one has been on the top of mind for many folks as of late. It is the season after all, but particularly this year, I think there's even more reason to be cognizant, to have taxes on our mind. And taxes absolutely can be a reason why we have less money than we thought we would have in retirement. And several of the tax changes, Chris, that are being suggested or being acted upon seem to be targeting retirees specifically, or could affect them maybe disproportionately.
Peter, we've seen numbers and statistics from high tax states like New York and California where, businesses, individuals are fleeing those states to go to other states where they get to legally keep more of their own dollars. And that certainly makes sense. The retirees today are going to have issues dealing with, larger IRA withdrawals that may affect their Medicare premiums. Okay. And if you want to think about taxes, if they raise the taxes on corporations, okay, that's going to cut profits, and that could hurt stock prices. That could hurt, investors' portfolio. It's the spillover effect, if you will. I'm not going to use the term trickle down because that's politically sensitive. And then if they raise income taxes, that's less discretionary dollars that would certainly flow into the economy. That could certainly, again, cause some of those recessionary pieces and a pause in equity markets, if you will. If they raise interest rates, okay, that can also have an impact on our borrowing costs, which means less money. So there's, a number of different ways to use the term taxation. We pay tax on our Social Security benefit when we take it out. When we're withdrawing Social Security, we pay tax to fund Social Security while we're working and fund our Medicare. And, as these systems become distressed, even more so with the baby boom generation, with the low interest rate on the reserves in those funds as well, certainly could add some distress where they need to continue to fund these. And just overall, when spending trillions of dollars that aren't coming in, the credit card debt runs up. As you become a less favorable indebtor, you're going to pay more for that risk. That's why there are government bonds and high yield bonds. It's a risk reward situation. And we could probably make an argument that, we're getting more into a climate where we're paying taxes on carbon. We could be paying higher taxes on income and other goods and services out there than in previous years.
Capital gains and dividends, another big one that retirees really depend on those things in large part for some sources of their income. Chris, I just think that this environment is ripe for the conversation about tax planning. And if we want to address the issue, the fear, the concern of running out of money in retirement, I've always heard it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And taxes are probably the largest thing standing in between the two. Taxes are likely one of our largest known expenses in retirement. Therefore, to keep as much of our money as possible, to have more confidence in our ability not to run out, we've got to do some proactive tax planning. You've talked about it on the program many, many times. You say you're sort of a tax geek. You're helping people identify these proactive strategies right now.
Absolutely, Peter. And a good example is we got a lot of folks listening to the program here today that think when they turn 65, they go on Medicare and it doesn't cost them anything. Okay. They pull Medicare premiums out of your Social Security benefit. You have to pay the Medicare supplement insurance to fill the gaps in there. So health insurance is not free in retirement by any stretch. The amount of those premiums for Medicare policies is determined by your income in your retirement. So, having some tax-free money helps offset that, if you will. So that's my tax geek talk for the day.
Well, again, if you would like to get a plan in your hands, if you would like to run some scenarios, get some analysis and run the calculators on how much you could control your tax liability into the future, that alone is worth the time, worth the call, especially if you've got a large tax deferred balance. You've worked hard for that money. Now plan to keep as much of it as possible. Chris Mcintire can help you with that. He can run those numbers. He can crunch the numbers, run the tools, run the calculators, and make sure you've got an understanding of the strategies that can help you control that tax bill and all of these other issues that we've discussed on today's program, building the plan and implementing the behaviors of those retirement savvy individuals so you can have more confidence throughout retirement that you've addressed the issues. 800-868-1194, the number to call. Call now. Get that plan in your hands. The game plan for your retirement, something that you can refer to on an ongoing basis and something that you can check up on throughout the years into and through your financial future, something that is valuable to your confidence. That game plan for retirement by calling right now, 800-868-1194, 800-868-1194, or visit an online, McIntyreRetirementServices.com. Chris, we always appreciate your time. Thank you for being here.
Hey, my pleasure. Everybody stay safe out there. Thank you for listening this weekend.
Visit McIntyreRetirementServices.com for many additional valuable resources, including other great episodes of Game Plan for Retirement with Chris Mcintire. Be sure to subscribe.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.
Any comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams refer only to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Indexed or fixed annuities are not designed for short-term investments and may be subject to caps, restrictions, fees, and surrender charges as described in the annuity contract.